We're calling it to order at 6:30, Lynn.
I got it.
Okay, and I see Joanne. Joanne, you're in both places.
Yeah. It took me a while to find the stinking phone number. It does every time. It never shows up, so I'm always searching for it. I'll get it one of these days.
Yeah, I had it all ready to go, and somehow the file got closed. But anyway, we will start by approving the September minutes because we didn't have a meeting in October. So would somebody like to make a motion?
They look fine to me. I'll make the motion.
Joanne will second. They look good.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, no opposed? So we're good. I'll put that paper aside. Okay. Reports. You've got the budget report, right, Joe?
Yep. Although it was dated October. I don't have a November one, but we probably don't have a November one.
Well, no, maybe I labeled it, well, because I did get the correct one.
Oh, because I got this a month ago when you sent it out, a couple weeks ago when you sent out stuff originally. And then today when you sent out an update, you didn't have a new budget, so I just assumed you didn't have one. Just had the business names.
All right, well, I have the budget report, and that it should have been in that.
Okay.
It does show that we paid Donahue Lawn Care for the work at Milltown for the ribbon cutting, and it does show that we paid the Business of the Year plaque. That was $40. We're left with $23,656.28. We've used 4.2%.
Oh, that's what I've got. But it was dated October, so that's why I didn't. Yes, that's exactly what you sent me. $23,656.28.
Yeah, the one I have. It should have been attached. It says 11/13.
I have it. That's what I just said. I have it, but it's dated October 16.
Oh, okay. So that's what I said at first. So I labeled it wrong. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, on that sheet that you have, does EDC have a budget line for meetings and fees and things like that? Is that one of the categories you guys put money into?
It's not. We have printing and publications, special projects, train wreck, branding initiative, recording secretary.
Okay. Maybe we go. What are you looking for? Something specific?
Well, as you know, we're doing another one of the big meetings on the 20th of December for the next 65 Main workshop. That's going to be the last really big one. I blew virtually all of my office budget for meetings and fees for the years on all that pizza and stuff I got at the last one. So
you want us to buy the pizza? I think we can handle that.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Brian Yoshiro, how much money is on that line item for?
Well, remaining, we have 23,656. We haven't spent much except for a small.
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is on the line item for branding activities.
Yeah, that's 14,650.
Yeah, I think that this is no stretch to say that this is part of the long-term goals of the branding committee.
Yeah,
that sounds good. I like that.
I like that.
Okay.
What do you think you need, Tara?
Well, I think I spent $150 just on the pizza, so up to $250, and I probably won't use that, but then I've got a cushion.
All right, okay. So I move that we appropriate up to $250 for the December 20th meeting.
With one question, do we want eggnog for that meeting?
I am not buying any booze. I mean, eggnog out of a carton if you want. I'm happy to supply, but I'm not bringing any booze to any public meeting. Thank you very much.
Hey, he said eggnog. He didn't say alcoholic eggnog.
I
Yeah,
do
I-
like regular eggnog too, you know.
Well, I do too. Yes, I knew what Charlie meant, regardless of whether he said
That's
it.
correct. That was my inference, my correct inference. Want to get the conversation lubricated.
While he's playing with that, I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, any opposed? That's no, so that's good. Okay, so we have $250.
Yeah,
And,
and just to be clear, I will expend whatever I may have left in my office budget first before I touch the EDC stuff. But if I've got up to 250, that should be plenty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it won't be your last meeting either, so.
No, but after the one in December, I'm probably moving to a live plus Zoom hybrid format.
Okay.
Because I think they're gonna get sort of smaller, more work intensive, but less in need of being less visual, stuff like that. And that could change, but that's sort of the plan in the back of my head, at least through the winter months, because I just think people shouldn't be asked to leave their house when there could be weather, right? So,
yeah,
So, Tara, I applaud your willingness to use up your budget line items first, but that's for your whole fiscal year, and you don't want to be cut out before the second half of the fiscal year. We've got a few more dollars apparently to cover
Yeah.
that 250.
yeah, but I shouldn't really need it for anything. I mean, except for this project. So I'm not that worried about it, Charlie. I'll expend mine first.
Okay. And of course, in the long run, if we find that some of this money could fill before the fiscal year is over, we know where it was.
okay. Now, last month, I did, as far as new business and adoption of trade names, I did send out last month, I think Ledgewood Homes and Jeff's Trucking and Property Maintenance, and we had the handyman that ceased business. This month we had Pantograph, which is a publisher, and Sacred Heart Journeys, which does spiritual stuff, spiritual education, meditation, merchandising. So those are the only two since last month when we should have met. Anybody else have anything on recent business activity?
I did have a question. The one business that you mentioned, I did a posting on Facebook, and the business of the month from Thompson Business Association.
Mhm.
That's the one that you just mentioned, or
No,
Or
business
one
of
to
the
close.
month is just at TBA meetings, everybody puts their business card in and we draw one.
yeah,
So that's business of the month.
but
Not,
that
these
wasn't
are,
one of those two that you just
no, these are new businesses,
okay.
brand new that did certificates of adoption of trade name. Yeah, business of the month this month was DC's Cleanouts. That's Dave Chapdelaine.
Yes.
He was a new business probably 3 or 4 years ago. Okay, so nobody else has anything. I don't know of anything else with businesses right this minute.
What's that brewery company coming?
They
That's
have a
good.
sign. They have a
Yeah, I
real
know.
sign on the building.
Yeah.
When I was walking over to 65 Main, I don't know, maybe a month ago, she happened to be in there working, so I stopped to talk to her. I believe her timeline right now looks like at least a soft opening, maybe in January. But as she gets closer, Dan Bennett will almost certainly know when she's close, because I believe she does some work for him on the side. I'll pop my head over there every once in a while. I'm sure she's going to want to do some kind of opening event. January is a really rough month for anybody to open, especially a brewery, because so many people do
Yeah.
dry January. But hopefully we'll be able to give her a little boost if she plans an opening.
Yeah, I'll see if I can check in too, if I see anybody there. Yeah, the other thing we were trying to get, planned a ribbon cutting for Spicer Propane, and that got put off. Also, they were trying for December 1st, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so.
Trying to go through hoops to get that, and they decided they aren't ready. TBA membership, as of last meeting last Wednesday, we're up to 77.
That's great.
It is, and Dan made a little speech, because we were doing this big push to try to get 100 by the end of the year. It was a goal, and Dan made a little speech saying, it looks like we maybe won't make it. We're still doing well. Just being 77 doesn't mean we're failing. Like Joanne said, I think it's pretty good. So the push is still on.
Speaking of TBA, does Ally live in Thompson?
Who?
Ally Mack.
Ally Mac.
See?
I'm trying to think of what's on the. What did I do with it? Somewhere in this mess, I have a roster. I don't think she does.
Did we know Dan couldn't make this meeting, or did he forget?
I don't remember him saying anything.
Yeah, neither do I. Wondered if he forgot.
He's pretty good at, not forgetting, but anything's possible.
I
I
can
don't know
text
what
him.
my latest roster is.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
I can
not
check
that-
on that. I
It's
have
not
the
that
answer.
urgent, you see. I can Facebook her directly. She befriended me. I just thought you might know off the top of your head.
Yeah, I'm thinking one of the people in that group is in Millbury.
Well, that's Vicky, I know, is in Millbury.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't think she's in Thompson. I can check when we're done. I have a roster, because I print one out for every meeting, as well as having it on the computer. I don't know where my TBA folder went. Found it. I think. I have papers everywhere. Okay. Ally Mac. No, Oxford. She's the one in
Okay.
Oxford.
All right. Never mind.
Nice try. I know what you were thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We don't have any citizens, therefore, no comments. Well, under old business, I only have it under old business because it was, because I sent out a message last month. We do have to approve our 2024 meeting schedule. So I didn't see any conflicts with any major holidays. It's a full 12-month because Thanksgiving is very late, so even the November 20th meeting is a whole week before. And so is the December 18th Christmas, Christmas time meeting. So did everybody look at the schedule? We okay to approve it, and I'll get it into Marie?
That seems fine. We're probably gonna have some kind of town meeting at some point disrupting it, but no
Well, yeah,
candidate
that-
forum next year.
If that comes up, we take it as it goes, but.
Yep.
Um, so I'll get this in, and the other business is the expiring EDC terms. I heard from Joanne, Brian, and Renee, and both Renee and I forgot that we heard from Renee.
And I asked
thought they were
Renee
this
today,
week, and-
I asked Renee today if I needed to do any paperwork for it, and she said know, but I guess they'll cover it at the BOS meeting next week and, yeah.
Yeah, Charlie, I didn't hear from you. Do you plan to stay on?
So do I have to go to
Yes.
the town hall and get sworn in? I forgot
Yeah, but
about
not
that.
yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm just looking for, an affirmative, and I'll give Marie the list. I heard from Renee, Brian, Lafredo, and Joanne. The other two that are due are Dan and Charlie.
Charlie, we can't hear you. I know you were trying to say something. Your microphone looks like it's on, but we didn't hear anything you said.
I said,
There it is.
yes, I intended to stay on. I didn't know that I was up for renewal this soon.
Oh, yeah, no, I sent you an email.
I believe you. I
It
believe
didn't
you.
get kicked back or anything, but like the rest of us, it may have gotten lost.
Yeah, I've got a mountain of email. I'm trying to figure out how to streamline this thing, and it just gets worse.
Yeah, I can totally relate. So that's why I was telling Marie I'll verify with you tonight. Because I'll give you a list of those who want to renew. And at the selectmen's meeting, I think it'll be the December meeting. They'll put the list forward and there'll still be time before the January meeting to go and get sworn in. Renee had said if somebody else wanted to come in as an alternate, she's good at giving it up, but otherwise she'll stay on. And Dan did not get back to me, and I forgot that he didn't, so I'll check with Dan. Yeah, Marie wanted the list by November 30th, even though you can't. I can let you know, or Marie will let you know when you can actually go down there. Okay, then we're on to progress reports and Tira updates.
There's actually, Brian, I put under old business, Tira had wanted to discuss the RFP for marketing on Main Street.
Yeah, and I've talked to Tira probably before you logged on, because I
Oh,
pulled
okay.
that up.
Okay,
And I
It
was
looks like
already,
it's actually on the agenda twice in different ways. So either way, we can talk about it now or later. I don't care.
yeah. Yeah, because it would be covered under 5, the marketing revitalization. So however you want, I had told Kira, I found the RFP, it's already to remail to people. If we want to do that, but Tira can tell you what she's looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I sent the copy of the one we used for the second. I think it was for the either for the first or second time we hired Sullivan and Lashane. Just to get some feedback on how we want that to be the next steps, what we want to change about that RFP. And I think the last time we talked about this at all was 2 meetings ago. And I may have said then, or I may just have said it to Renee, I don't know, that what seems most likely is that I'm just going to rewrite something and send it to you guys for approval after that. But I was kind of looking for some feedback on what you guys are after for the next project before I redraft it. We've all had a ton of stuff to do, and I have been buried since September with a variety of things. So I haven't done that. Now, that's the bulk of your branding initiatives budget for this fiscal year, the 10 grand that, we really fought for in the last budget season. We can put it off until January to really discuss. And I suspect we're going to have to, because I don't think anybody's looked at it recently. I would not put it off any more than that. So I guess what I'm asking you guys to do is to really, once Brian sends it out again, to really look at it and think about the goals for, and we've been calling it marketing Main Street, but clearly it's really marketing the revitalization of the entire routes 12 and 131 corridors, which are the districts eligible for redevelopment. Because, and I think Renee made the point, you know, Main Street itself isn't big enough to justify. It can be the jewel in the crown in some ways, because it's the tightest and we've got the most actively going on. But in order to really pull in economic development, we've got to show the potential on the whole corridor. So I just want you guys' thoughts and input on that before I start hammering it out. Fair?
Fair. Yeah, I'll send it out and I'll make sure it's on the next agenda, specifically to see what we think.
Okay.
Okay. What else do you have? Anything?
On that?
Well, no, under grant applications updates,
Oh, okay.
the TIA stuff.
Yeah, I'm not looking at the agenda, so you'll just have to call it out item by item.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so grant updates, there are a few. Let's see, the sidewalk project is officially over as of 2 days ago, 3 days, this week, regardless, because they finished the last 2 crosswalks. So all activity associated with the lot SIP grant is now complete, and I will tell NECOG that because technically they administer that grant for us, which is fine with me. So that's fantastic. It connects to the Blaine Road intersection improvement, but that was unrelated to that grant, but that is also essentially complete. The only work that has to be done at Blaine Road is not being done by us. It's being done by ECCD because they have a separate grant to install a rain garden. They had hoped to get it done this fall because it had been so mild, but now that it's turned cold, I suspect they're going to come back for that in the spring, but that's fine. So that's the big one that's now done. Ongoing, both grants related to Trainwreck Park are active. J&D is working on bid documents for construction. Amy's away, so she's got to just sign the agreement, but I think Janet's probably already working on it regardless. I hope to have her bring some stuff for folks to look at the trails meeting in December. I expect that's the case. I've discussed it with Janet and Daniel. The other piece to wrap up the first grant, which is the legal, the planning, the acquisition, is the actual acquisition of the piece of the Butler's property. We originally thought it was going to be about an acre. It's going to be more like an actual half acre. That's a 3-part approval process. We have 2 out of 3 approvals in hand. Planning and zoning approved it, Board of Selectmen approved it, but because it's an acquisition, even though there are no local tax dollars involved, it has to go to town meeting. So we're expecting that there will, I know it's crazy, but it is what it is, right? That's our form of government. So Amy and I are planning on getting that for a town meeting in December. I do not know if there's anything else that's going to be on that town meeting. I don't expect we'll get any friction, but you never know. So you just keep your eyes open for that. The Historical Society is going to work on marking the stones for the turntable so that they can be assembled properly, because they're all over there, but you know, they have to fit together in a certain way. But that's underway. Oh, what else? The pair of grants for 65 Main, you know, are ongoing. We're just about done with what the renovation grant will cover, because we got such a wide disparity from what the architects told us the hazmat contract was going to be and what it ended up costing. So the hazmat's done for now, and the roof is being completed. And I am submitting at least 2, maybe 3 additional requests to try to close that renovation gap to go to the next steps. I am going to talk to Ian Martino to see if he can arrange for the Historical Society to paint the exterior as in-kind services. I think that's something we can probably get done while I am searching for more renovation funding to close that gap. And that'll continue to show progress. And also having that in kind is shows the continued support. The planning grant, obviously, you've all been to at least one, if not both, of the 2 sessions we've had so far. That is going swimmingly. Next one, as you know, will be substituting for the EDC meeting in December, and that's when Wayne Wiseman is coming back from Illinois to do the 2-hour intensive on the permaculture aspect. I will pause in running my mouth for a moment to get you guys feedback on the last session that we just had while it's still fresh in everybody's mind. Since 3 of the 4 of you who are here were there. And, you can give Yasino your thoughts. Obviously, you've seen I sent out the synopsis. I'm sure nobody's had time to really go through it yet, but.
I did.
I did too.
So your thoughts, folks?
Sarah, when did you have the time to do all that?
I know, right? That was huge.
There's a lot of typing to do.
I spent literally all day on Monday and Tuesday and about 45 minutes this morning doing that. So that's when.
Like 30 pages, and I don't know. I was trying to find something you didn't cover. I mean, come on. There must have been something that you forgot to mention.
Well, I assumed it had to be that thorough to meet the grant obligations, correct? Or you just love doing this stuff?
There's no specific requirement on how I report this stuff, but the thoroughness is both useful to me as I go through what's the point in doing the project, that gathering of information if I'm not going to encapsulate the information. But the more thorough it is, not only does it look good for the grant reporting on the existing grant, it's super supportive of seeking additional funds. Every time I can turn around and say, look at how well supported this is in the community. And I've got 36 people who came in a room and gave me detailed feedback, and here are the details. That's good. The only piece that report is lacking, and I'll get back to it eventually, is, I still want to create at least a little bit of a narrative of this is what these things mean for the shape of the project. I think a lot of it is inferred just in the gathering of the data, because you can see how things get repeated and repeated. But just saying it in a simple story form is, I think, the only real piece that needs to be done. But that'll take me longer than a couple of days typing transcription. I have to think that through.
Well, I thought it was interesting in the diversity of people and interests that were in the group. I thought you did a nice job of, I'm sure you invited many more, but you had a nice cross section there. Again, I pointed out how I had the commercial real estate guy from Killingly at my table, which really brought a good outside perspective, that we aren't just all Thompson talking about this. Other people have ideas that can be utilized or modified for our use. So I think you really did a good job there. Like you, I was disappointed there wasn't more of school presence, especially since a lot of the comments were about education and tying in with the school. And there seemed to be a lot of interest in the agricultural, the permaculture part of the project, which not only works for this project, it helps educate a lot of the people in that audience for things going forward. Yeah, I don't know that, obviously it served the purpose that you had, but I think it served other purposes. And one of the things my group did that I kind of pushed was the involvement of the community, because I said right up front, it's always an issue, getting the community involved and understanding a project. And so we don't hear later on, well, who decided this for us? And these monthly meetings, besides being required by the grant, it does involve the community. Maybe not as widespread as we'd like yet, but I know you're doing, if I recall reading correctly, an outreach to the school with these results. So maybe we can increase our reach as well.
Yeah, I am supposed to go to the school on this Friday for their student leadership. I guess, I don't know if it's a club or a class. I'm a little unclear on what role they play within the institution, but to do an abbreviated in an hour version of this game for that group. I honestly have no idea how I'm going to trim this down to an hour, but that's going to be how I spend most of my day tomorrow figuring that out. I have some idea on how I'm going to do it, but regardless, I think everybody knows, yes, this school population has to get involved. The 2 members of Board of Ed who were able to come are now fully on board. Matt Polsky in particular is super stoked about it. Jess, Heather, Kristen Schultz, who was just elected, or have all been to the meetings, or actually I think Heather hasn't been able to make either of the last 2, but is certainly aware of it through Brian. The winds have shifted in terms of the open-mindedness to the project. I think some of that has been just the persistence of us talking about it, clearing obstacles to funding, doing the outreach, getting even that first overview meeting that we did in, what was that? That was October. I think as people see the shape of what is proposed, it gets easier and easier, as you say, to get the community involved and the buy-in. Look, I'm going to be nervous until the thing actually opens for business, that we'll have a renovated building with nobody inside it. That's going to make me nervous until the end. But silver linings, even if that happens, as long as we've funded the whole thing with grant funding, we give it a go and it doesn't work, then the options open up to do the things that the naysayers wanted to do in the first place. You want to sell it? Sure. I'll go to the Attorney General myself and release and petition to be released from the conditions of the will. But I don't think that will be necessary. I think if this project, we give it the old college try and it just fails to thrive or fails to launch, it's still a town-owned building that now can be used for something else. And whatever that thing is, right? You pivot and adapt, There was no way the town was going to renovate it without grant funding. That's what I'll keep working on until the whole thing is done. But I'm still, obviously, because we're working on it, I'm still optimistic that it will serve the function we've proposed. I think it can. But I always have to have that other in the back of my mind.
Yeah, whatever happens, it's still better than the hole in the ground that some people wanted.
Yeah, which still sort of makes me amazed. But that's neither here nor there. Joanne, Charlie, your thoughts?
Yeah, the group that I was with was, I guess it wasn't a coincidence that we were all focused. All of our groups had a reference to education, because that's part of the requirement of the will in the first place. But we were also looking at adult education, and I really don't know the people that were at the table. The woman that was there is not a town resident, but I think she has a business in town.
No, she doesn't. She's my counterpart for the town of Killingly.
Oh, okay.
She's their economic development director. I mean, not an exact counterpart because she doesn't do land use. She just does economic development.
I
But
thought-
she and I are also on the tourism district together, and she goes to those commercial real estate meetings with me. So I intersect with Jill a lot. She is incredibly thoughtful and has some experience with incubator type projects.
That was the other point that why I mentioned her. She has a lot of experience. It's almost like a fill in the blank process now. She's worked with enough people to be able to really help them solidify their mission statement and move forward. But yeah, adult education. And David, the man that was there to my left, has children in the school. He said that there's a very definite gap in the curriculum that when he identified it, I don't know the details, but it seems, yes, let's get the school administrators in there. The overall attitude of the people that were there was also very solid and enthusiastic about what we're hoping to do. And not just because of what we're hoping to do at that site, but because of how we expect it to influence the rest of the town. So I think we're heading in a good direction, and we just need to keep on going.
What about you, Joanne? Thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a little bit noisy, but then after you got used to it, it just, we all talked over each other, and it turned out to be really very interesting. And by the end of the night, we're all like best friends, because it was, it's a fun way to meet new people. And I did not know Joe Perotti, but, he's everybody at my table. I knew Sandra from her business, and the Allison from Teague. I didn't know her, but we all had different perspectives. So I don't know how in the heck you know how to organize these things, Tara, by separating people. But you did a great job because we're all different, and we all were able to present our thesis, so to speak. And I thought of some things that I hadn't thought of earlier. One of the cards talked about artwork, and boy, what a great idea that would be to involve high school kids, or in some kind of an art project, because it reminded me of Turtle Lot when we had the greatest art teacher there many years ago when my kids were going there, and he did some wonderful things with his classes. So I never thought of having 65 Main as an art display, or putting sculptures or for whatever. So that was another aspect that I hadn't thought of earlier, and I thought of that night. So with all business people at my table, we more or less honed in on the business aspect as opposed to the table that I know Mr. Blackmer was at. That was at the agricultural table. So everybody was well represented that evening, and I look forward to the next one.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for coming. I was really happy with the quality of the discussion. There's not much for me to do in those. I'm always kind of expecting that people will have more questions than they do. There weren't that many questions, which is fine, but so that gives me a lot of time to sort of watch the room. And I can tell you, watching the room right up until I called the discussion period being over, people were talking to each other, very thoughtfully and very intently. And so I was very pleased with the results. So thank you again, and see you on the 20th for the next one. Other grants, I had a mildly baffling email from DECD advising me that we have to sign our paperwork for the Brownfield grant by the end of this month. They said, I wrote them back and said, yeah, that's great. Your lawyer has all the paperwork. So I felt like saying, what are you telling me for? So that I guess is somewhat hopeful that we'll have that contract signed by the end of November. I don't know. I got to circle back to them. Some of the communication I have with some of the state granting agencies is just mystifying. The 2 steep grants, the library should be wrapped by the end of the month. And the track, we got approval yesterday to go out to bid. So those 2 infrastructure projects, well, one will be done this year and the other hopefully will be done by the time school starts in fall of 24. So those are good. And then the last 3, I submitted 3 grant applications at the same time. Well, one of them was the steep grant for the track. So that one was successful. The other 2 were not successful. One, I was notified today that the wayfinding program was again not awarded, but was advised by CTDOT to reapply when it reopens in 24. They do anticipate having a round of funding in 2024 for that. I sent them back an email to ask if there was an executive summary or any kind of feedback I could get to try to, fill any deficits in the application. I think that it's just a very competitive grant program. So I'll try again. I think it's a solid project and a solid application. I think it's just not quite rising to the top. So if they will give me some feedback, maybe I can tighten that up. And then the last one, which was the biggest one, is the 3.88 million, which was the CIF grant, also not successful. We've known that for a while now. I am reapplying for that. The next round is due on the 15th of December. So I just started reworking my draft today. I did get an executive summary for that. I have already spoken to DECD on a follow-up call. I more or less I know a lot of what needs to be tightened up there. John Guskowski from, well, he used to be me in the office and then worked for CME/CHA. Now he's got his own planning company. He's one of the 65 main planning grant partners. So we agreed that his role in this, in the 65 main planning project, is going to be to help, to assist me with some of the grant applications to try to close the funding gap, including the element that goes into this CIF grant, which was like 300,000-ish to put into the renovation. So he's going to work with me on tightening that application up. That'll go in for December 15th on or before. And then the notification on that should be in late March. Like I say, I've seen the feedback. It was very, very, very positive. The little gaps that need to be closed, we can close. And the one that's most challenging for me is the one that John's going to really help me with, I think, the most. So, fingers crossed on that. And I think that's my grant summary. I'm probably forgetting something, but who knows?
Probably. It's a lot. Next up is website notes, and I haven't noticed anything new. Except we're still not using the calendar.
The calendar on the front page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I mean, the agenda was still there on our page and the link worked, but there was no mention of it on the calendar page. I was at a meeting last night where we were reminded that the public does rely on notifications that come out of that page. So I don't know why it's not there. I thought that the town clerk put them in, and I was told last night that actually each agency is responsible to put their own on.
Yeah, I've talked to Renee, I've talked to Leave and See. Because the thing is, you say nothing's really on the calendar, and everybody says, well, it's on our Facebook page. And not everybody goes to all these various Facebook pages.
Yeah.
And I'm one. I could be checking 200 Facebook pages every day, and I don't have time.
Yeah, I don't
So-
either. I respond to somebody who asks me a question or, puts me in a comment.
Yeah, I try to respond if it's something specific to me, but other than that. Okay, and Trainwreck Park progress probably covered under the grant updates, right, Tara?
For the most part, the one piece I didn't talk about is, again, you guys have that 2,500, I think it is, for the bike repair station.
Oh.
At some point during this fiscal year, we probably do now need to order that, because that is going to be a part of the construction and implementation probably of the parking area for Trainwreck Park. It may or may not be a part of what we had hoped for with a welcome kiosk area. It's unclear to me how much I'm going to be able to stretch the funding to cover, but I know 100% we're going to do the turntable and 100% we're going to do the parking and the on-road traffic calming. So at the very least, we can get it associated with that parking area. And Janet, I sent her the spec sheet. So that will definitely be in the final, the 90% construction drawings that she's working on, that she will be working on.
Question, I believe I heard you say that two of the grants monies are actually starting to flow through that. So work is getting done, trees are getting trimmed down and whatnot.
Well, that's not happening yet because that's what Janet is working on right now is the bid documents for the contractor to do that.
All right.
Because it's grant funded, it's not like I can just call up some guy locally and say, hey, can you do this? It's got to go through bid. It's got to be held to certain standards. So, it is, but that work is all happening. So grant number one has been well underway. We should be able to close that. Well, I have to close it by the end of June next year, I think. That'll be no problem. And then with luck, always with luck, sometime next spring or summer, you will see all that stuff happening, the clearing, the grubbing. The turntable will be first, I can tell you that.
Okay. Now under, events, Brian, you want to fill us in on the turkey trot? If you,
If I must. Well, thank you, guys who have participated. Obviously, this isn't an EDC event. It is a trails event, and EDC doesn't directly benefit, but it is part of the community. And I think one of the most significant parts is that it brings people into our community. This year we had runners from, and these are just runners, I don't even know about the walkers, from 6 different states, counting Connecticut. Obviously, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Mass are 3 of those states. I know we had New York, Georgia, believe it or not. I forget the 6th state, and almost 50 different towns, and that groups things together. So I didn't count Killingly, Dayville, Danielson, all of those as a separate town. I counted them as one. Thompson was one. So a lot of that is Run 169 that brings people from all over the state. And, it's just nice that we can show off to people around the state. And there's usually a lot of positive feedback about the site and about what we do. This year, I don't know, it was probably one of the toughest years for me to plan and do it. Maybe because I've done it and it was my 5th year doing it. It's maybe a bit of a drag at this time, but somehow by the time of the race, I got motivated and even Gary O was like, wow, you get so excited over doing this. And I guess by that point, I'm more relieved, but we had the good weather. And I felt really good. I felt great about the comments, like Brian just said, with his grandkids running it. So many people who participated had positive feedback. I heard nothing negative from anyone, participants, volunteers. It was just probably the most successful year in terms of that. To top it off, it was obviously yet another year where it's always my goal to increase sponsorships, and we did that once again this year. I've almost tripled the sponsorship level in the time that I've run it. We're still waiting for the final 5 checks to come in that have been promised. When we're done with that, where did I put the number? We should be at 16,275 in sponsorships, an increase of over 2,000 from last year. I don't have the final participant numbers, but with 25 day of registrations, we were running behind on the runner registrations. So we did exceed last year, I believe. And I know we were about 20 walkers more than last year. Inviting dogs seemed to be a big hit. There were 5 or 6 dogs there. No complaints. They were well behaved. Even a runner brought a dog, and someone had told him, oh, he heard me say, I guess on my announcements about dogs, and I heard a little grumbling. Oh, we didn't know. Yeah, you did, because it's publicized. But, oh, now what are we going to do with the dog? So I just told him, well, if you hang back, you've got a timing mat. Doesn't matter how late you go, you can still run the race. Just don't want the dog interfering. Well, it turns out he hung back, but he also happened to be one of the fastest runners. So he still took his dog and passed a good many of people on the course, but yet not one negative complaint about it. I will enforce that, because I just think that's a hazard, considering the type of course and how narrow it is at some points. So yeah, I'm just feeling good about it. We are setting up my post-race meeting with the main committee for the Monday after Thanksgiving. Looks like everyone's available. We just got our responses today. I've already got a page plus of notes of good things and things we can work on to make it even better next year. And of course, I'll be reporting hopefully more solid numbers on the trails meeting the first Monday of December. So yeah, it went well. I still am of the mind I don't want to do this forever. It would be nice to have a couple of younger members on the Trails Committee, but we seem to be having trouble keeping new members, so that I can have someone set to take over. At that point, I don't know how much they would really have to do, if just keep the sponsors we have, because we're hitting the point where you don't necessarily need a whole lot more, and run the day's events. But I figure my goal, I've hit 16,000 plus. I'd like to bring sponsorships to 20,000. I'd still like to get the number of runners up to 200. And, maybe I want to step down once I hit 70 years old, which is only going to be a couple more races for me. So ideally, I'd like to see someone else I can pass the baton to and give them a smoothly running, successful event. And again, with the exposure we get there, and the only people that really set up tents are Day Kimball and Meadowview, but with the exposure there, it still seems like maybe we could do more promoting a town or a town business, or my got company arriving, or town businesses, or just the town in general at the event, since there are people coming from all over. I'm going to mute myself now if anyone wants. So I first have to answer the door.
Okay. For the only upcoming event, I mean, besides the December 20th planning meeting, we have the Winter Market Bonfire and Tree Festival, December 8th. That's, well, it's moving. they're, I'm been sitting in on the planning meetings with that, but they're hoping to have, vendors lined up outside, a tree auction inside, VFW, doing chili and, coffee, I think. They're looking at getting a Santa Claus to have kids sit with. We have a wagon, a horse-drawn wagon, going up and down 65, Main Street, not 65 Main, turning around in St. Joe's. It will all end in a bonfire. It's, yeah. I can only hope it's a bad time of year to try to have outdoor vendors. It would be a nice time if we could all have it inside, but that's not happening. There are volunteers needed. If you're interested, you can contact, Brian Levency. And it will be, Friday, December 8th, 4 to 8 p.m. Rain date will be Saturday. So that's that for that. Yeah, it's published, it's on the website and stuff. You can get a flyer and you can, get involved if you want to.
Everybody here probably knows, but it is worth mentioning that they are looking for organizations to donate trees. So I bring that up, I guess, mostly for Joanne. If you want to take that back to your office at Remax and see if the office would like to donate a decorated tree. I know Amanda's sending out a whole bunch of letters to town organizations that have budgets. I'm surprised that she didn't give one to you, Brian, on behalf of EDC.
Yeah, I didn't get, TBA is going to put a tree together.
Yes, that I knew, but I only know that she did that because she handed me the one to give to planning and zoning. They don't really have any money in their budget that would cover that, but they do have a budget, so I passed it on anyway.
Yeah.
But just be aware, she may ask for that directly of EDC. So I'm, like I say, I'm surprised she didn't ask you to bring it up in this meeting. Maybe she didn't realize that it was the last meeting before the event, but.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it didn't come up. We've been talking, more about the businesses and TBA. Yeah, they're looking for a tree 4 to 7 foot, have it decorated. They're going to be auctioned. TBA should be doing one that will feature some decorations and gift cards.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't gone. It could be because she's had some health issues. Maybe she didn't get to everyone, but she came to the last Trails meeting, which was October, and asked us to participate. So we're doing a small tree, a 4-foot tree, but in fact, it's in my garage. and Lucille and John are making the ornaments, and so Trails will be represented.
Yeah, and she came to the TBA meeting in October too with the flyer, because it's taken a while to get all the plans firmed up. Because even when she came in October, it wasn't, the plan wasn't totally ready for presenting. But yeah, that's the scoop. Yeah, the last item on the agenda is the marketing revitalization of downtown core, including 65 Main. And also it's includes public workshop meetings. So that one's probably pretty well covered with the grants and the workshops.
Yeah, I think so. Lynn, it's possible when I gave you that feedback to add it under old business that I just didn't notice it there already under new business. So you can always tell me if I sound like I'm talking crazy talk.
Well, I also thought that maybe it was just the update for the public workshop meetings and that the RFP wasn't included in that line item. So that's why I put it in, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
that's fine, but we kind of made, there's so much going on there that we gave it a broader title.
Got it.
So the RFP would be covered, but I also wanted to bring it up specifically also, Lynn, so that's fine.
I have a point that I'd like to suggest for marketing. And it had occurred to me when I was at the West Thompson Dam for the turkey trot. There are signs at places in West Thompson Dam and at other places in the town, but in specific, they show places for opportunities for hiking and walking around West Thompson Dam. We have like a bumper sticker available in the town. I don't know, I guess it's in Renee's office, but I've only ever seen one. It's the logo from the new logo, with the mill and it's on the letterhead. And it's a bumper sticker available, small square bumper sticker. The kind of thing that I'm thinking of, and as soon as I say QR code, Tira's going to say, not again, but we've already got the artwork. If we just put a QR code on that people would be able, it says find your way. So people would be able to link back to the town's website, whether they were out at West Thompson Dam or Trainwreck Park or Aquatic State Park. There's different places in the town where visitors might go, and I think part of what we have been talking about is how to get the word out and show people what it is that we do. So it seems simple, and I wanted to suggest it as a bullet point for the overall workshops on marketing.
Any comments?
Well, I mean, I think if the question is, can we have bumper stickers made? I mean, whether there is a QR code on it or not, the answer is clearly yes. And the commission has money in a printing and publications line that could be applied to that. I think right now, you're probably holding that based on whatever we end up doing out of the marketing in our RFP, but
Yeah.
you guys can change your mind on that at any time. I think it's totally worthy.
Well, what are those stickers for that you saw? Are they already
saw those.
outside type stickers for bumpers?
I saw it on the back of somebody's car, but I think it was in the rear window instead of on the actual bumper.
Yeah, Charlie, I've seen one or two as well, and I don't know who made those or where they got them made, but you could have them made by Vistaprint or by that guy who's in TBA easily enough. I don't think they're costly, just somebody has to decide to do it and provide them with probably
I'm thinking in terms of minimalism. That's a good image. That logo is a good image. We're getting response on it from other areas as well. It catches the eye, and if we can put these around, and there's enough people will see that code and get the information. I at least want us to explore it, and I don't think that it's going to be that expensive. Somebody already has the artwork. I don't know who did it. As Tira said, I don't know who did it. I've only
Yeah, and
seen
it's the same artwork that's used on the letterheads.
It is. And all we
there.
have to do is have a QR code, and they can be small. They can be.
Yeah, they can be
incredibly
tiny, I know.
small. So it wouldn't wreck the image. It's just something that would be right there on the bottom of the picture.
Yeah, we can toss that one around.
Tangentially related, not necessarily just to the idea of the bumper sticker, and it just prompted it because when Charlie said the QR codes, I immediately started thinking of the Z maps. The tourism district is going to be releasing, I think on Monday, the official press release that that grant opportunity is open again, the regional partnership grant. I will be forwarding it. I'm on the grants committee for the tourism district. I will be forwarding it to the Historical Society and Conservation Commission to see if they want to expand what they did with the cemetery map to include other towns. I will be forwarding it to Connecticut RC&D to see if they want to lead on an expansion sort of the ZMAP project, to see if they can fund an influencer campaign, because a really fantastic influencer spot was circulating. I don't even know who actually paid for it. But a woman who came in and did like, it's like a 60-second itinerary for a day trip or a weekend trip to Woodstock, Pomfret, and Putnam. It is fantastic. Those grants are up to $10,000. They are matching grants. So whoever submits an application, they have to have a matching cash grant in hand and verified. If anybody else has anything that they want to pursue in putting a regional marketing partnership grant together for the Agriculture Commission, I'll be giving it to them. I can certainly assist with it because I'm on the grants committee. I can't really be the lead applicant. And I would have to recuse myself on voting on it during the review period, but those grants are going to be due to the committee by the 15th of January. So, and the reason it prompted me is because we obviously use the QR codes on the Z maps. So just, if you have any ideas and you have a real concrete thing that you want to pursue, yes, I will help. I just can't. I mean, I suppose I could write it, but I can't really submit it and I won't be able to vote on it.
Likely you'd have to recuse yourself of anything that comes from the town, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's I think we have got 5 members on the grants committee. And we all periodically have to recuse ourselves because we also represent the towns that we're in. So yeah, it's part of our avoiding conflict of interest that we can't directly vote. Like I didn't vote on the approval of the one that the Historical Society and the Conservation Commission submitted last year, but similarly, I let them know when it was available. I gave them a little advice. They handled that without me writing a word of it, which was good. But if somebody needed some assistance, yes, I would give that, and I would just be not involved in the discussion or voting on that particular application.
Okay. Do we have anything else? Any comments before we close?
I'm interested in public art, and perhaps part of what we're looking at for marketing of that downtown area, we should be looking at areas where we might identify large open empty walls that could be available for an underpass or something like that. It's something that I've talked about, but haven't known how to pursue it. I'm also very much interested in including trees in our marketing of what we're going to be building and what we want this town to look like. Southbridge has a program where they're providing free trees. Yukon has a program where they are looking for partners for urban forestry programs. And the state of Connecticut has funding, funneling federal dollars through, as well as there are private foundations that are looking for community partners. The American Chestnut Foundation is one. And so there's plenty of opportunities out there. Again, I've got names, but I can't submit any request for more help. It's got to be somebody that's officially representative of the town's administration. I would like all of us to be thinking about it because it is what will allow the town to grow. Having the right kind of programming, the right kind of atmosphere, and nobody's going to think of it if we don't. And the last point is, we didn't mention it, but I think we need to find a way to get more people in the town, businesses in the town, involved with the Natchug Epic at the end of March. And there is an opportunity. We can begin to think about doing something in Thompson on the Saturday before, because the program is expanding. The main group is going to be working out of Putnam with anything that they're doing on Saturday. We could do something. And so let's think about it.
Well, if you want to put together a list or a flyer or something expressing what you're saying, Dan and I can bring it to the TBA meeting.
Okay, I'll
And
put together a couple of suggestions of how Thompson business should be able to get some advantage out of it.
yeah, no, I agree.
Every other town we go to, name a big event that you go to on a regular basis. You know, it started out small, and then it gets to a point where you can hardly wait to get there. You and 20,000 other people are heading for the town. And we could wind up with that. And if we're not prepared for it, all the dollars that come in with those 20,000 people go out with those 20,000.
Oh yeah, I know I went through it when I was a TBA president, and we had the Warrior Dash come a few times, trying to get the businesses to have a food special, have some kind of a thing, give out flyers, and it was hard to get people motivated.
Yes, I saw something that in the last 24 hours where a public event was going on and local restaurants had coupons available, and people came in to the restaurant that wouldn't have come in otherwise. So, you buy one, get one free. Well, you still sold one dinner and you got 2 customers.
Yeah, oh yeah, it can be a very small thing, but it gets people to try the restaurant and they tell their friends. So yeah, I agree. So yeah, if you put something together,
I'll put some ideas together,
yeah.
send them over to you and Dan for your next TBA meeting, and hopefully we'll start to get the word to percolate in.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, those are my ideas.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, a couple things I wanted to just again, kind of unrelated to this committee, but it does represent other committees. From the Thompson Together world, we did get the gate installed on our Jacob Cemetery this week. The posts were put in a couple weeks ago. The gate went up this week, so we still have to paint it. As soon as I get with Rob Wurge on final details on the dedication plaque to Carolyn Wurge, I'll be ordering that. So hopefully next spring, maybe Earth Day or something, we'll be able to have a dedication at Jacob Cemetery. And for Tara, got a tickle all of a sudden. One thing that came up in my meeting in 65 Main, since that was the last topic here, I don't know if it's something you can add to your grant submission or if you even want to do it, but when we were putting aside things like lighting and parking, somebody did bring up that if we're going to do new sidewalks on Main Street, maybe some of those colonial type lantern type lights installed when they do the sidewalks to make it a nice little walking area. I don't know if that's something that needs a separate grant or can be added to it, but if they do give us the money for the sidewalks, that would be the time to consider doing that.
That is an interesting point, Lafredo, and I honestly do not remember if lighting is addressed in the construction documents for the Main Street sidewalks. It definitely was not when we did the Riverside Drive sidewalks, where we went in and we added more lanterns. The thing that I have found about the decorative lanterns is a lot of them do not conform to the anti-light pollution, like the ones, for example, that I find personally the most appealing visually are not good for anti-light pollution. They're not downcast. There are some fixtures that are aesthetically pleasing that do conform. I believe they are relatively expensive, and I do not, if I were to guess, I would say they probably are not in the construction documents. I think I would have a challenge getting a competent estimate to add to the grant that I'm working on for submission on the 15th, but I do take your point. I'll have to give that some thought.
When you mention lighting and trees, another recent article that I saw dramatizes the fact that the sidewalk trees fail because they've got this little hole for the tree to grow up through. And the best thing is to have a large open strip between the curb and the sidewalk. But also the rain garden. We talked about this a little bit at one of the workshops, that we need to find ways to capture the rain and direct it for the trees or landscaping, whether it's the permaculture or whether it's trees for decoration and aesthetics. Too many trees have been planted in the last 40 years or 50 years, and they didn't think about 10, 15 years from now, the tree is going to be choking itself out. Well, we know that now. So,
well, that's not really the problem that we have with locally municipally planted trees, which only exist in the downtown core anyway. The problem we have with the locally planted municipal trees is that they're all invasive species. So, I mean, we took the 2 trees down from in front of 65 Main. Well, only one of them because it was an invasive. The other one was just not in good health. But that was just a short-lived tree. There was a gigantic Norway maple in front of 65 Main that had to come down anyway because of the roof work. But part of what the permaculture guy is going to be doing in that back lot, you know, that 3.2, 3.5 acres, however big it is identifying the invasives versus the natives and coming up with a strategy. The other issue that would be a factor in sidewalk trees is that the dimensions of the roads and sidewalks aren't going to be able to change that much. So it's not like we're not building any of this stuff from scratch, right? Not brand new neighborhoods. It's retrofitting neighborhoods, and there's only so much dimensional change you can make. When urban planning in the late 19th to early 20th century was happening, building boulevards in cities and a little bit in suburbs, as suburbs were beginning to be constructed, they put what a lot of regionally in the Midwest, they call them hell strips, which is that grass strip between the road and the sidewalk itself. And that's where the trees got planted. None of the dimensions of our sidewalks are even wide enough for a hell strip. So the only option is for trees to go on the properties on the other side. Obviously, those are private properties. The town can't tell somebody that they have to put a tree in. There are some zoning, there's some zoning language around that, but realistically, you just can't, you plain old can't tell somebody that they have to plant a tree on their private property. So there's some retrofitting challenges that I think are going to be too difficult to solve in the way that I think you're envisioning them, Charlie, because we just don't have, the infrastructure is not the right shape and size, even when we go in and reconstruct it. So we have to look at our green spaces and our tree cover in different ways. And I think we're lucky in that we have so much tree cover. We are not, although we have an urbanized area, we are not an asphalt heavy city or a built from the ground up suburb where everything was flattened and then built to a finished state with all the trees taken away. We have probably conservatively 60 to 70% of Thompson is covered in trees. So it is a different issue, although you are correct in principle that street trees are desirable. We're still going to butt up against the fact that the town roads and sidewalks are what, where, and how large they are.
Well, I agree with you. I'm just trying to push the border as far as I can. If we don't
Like
imagine it, nobody will.
Yeah, no, there's ways we can add trees. I mean, personally, I would love to replace every Norway maple in Riverside Park with an appropriate tree species. That's not on my short-term radar, right? But Swanson Park is a part of the CIF grant. There aren't invasive trees in Swanson Park, but we could add smaller native ornamentals. And in fact, I think that's what our concept plan calls for. Other opportunities may arise once, I'll tell you, the prime example for me is once we finally are able to do something with 630 Riverside, Belden Corticelli. Right now it's covered in autumn olive, bittersweet, you name it. Everything in there is invasive scrub that's grown up since it became a vacant lot. When that site is redeveloped, that is a huge opportunity for appropriately landscaped addition of trees or other native species, especially since there's so much of it that can't have structures on it, but could have open space, green space. And again, we've got some at least loose concept plans. We've had them for a while, but they are notional until somebody is able to take possession of that property.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody set? Joe, you okay? Any comments?
Nope, everybody, sounds good to me.
Okay, so hopefully we'll see you on December 20th for the planning meeting. And the next official EDC meeting will be in the new year. And I'll either I or Marie will let you know when you can go and get sworn in for re-up for the EDC. So if we're all set, I'll adjourn at 7:54.
Alrighty, guys, see ya. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Good night.
Joe.
Good
Night.
Be safe
night.
Happy
and-
Thanksgiving, everyone.